I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much better.
if I may ask one other question. Mr. President,
That's enough.
Welcome to today's cable news craziness, where we take a look at some of the craziness that takes place on cable news. Today, Stephanie Rhule and a group of MSNBC nobodies takes on a piece of legislation from my home state, the great state of Alabama, that would tell rioters, hey, if you're going to break the law, if you're going to destroy property, if you're going to assault law enforcement, there are going to be real penalties and there are going to be felonies. This is not about peaceful protesters. This is not about black people. This is not about white people. This is about people rioting. So, of course, MSNBC has a whole group of people, reporters, hosts, and commentators that want to defend people who do property damage. Roll it.
Yeah, opponents say that there is a consistent miscasting of protesters as agitators. All across the country, though, this is happening. Spoke to folks at the ACLU, and they tell me that there are at least 60 bills. They've never seen anything like it. 60 similar bills in at least 26 different states that they are tracking them very closely. They call them un-American, unconstitutional, and unnecessary. But we just got off the phone with Alan Treadaway. He says in just the last day, he's already gotten 12 supporters for this bill. And the simple fact of the matter is, Stephanie, Republicans have a supermajority here. And so if they want to get this bill through, they won't have any trouble doing it. And that could set a precedent for some of these other states. Stephanie?
Chris, thank you. I want to dig deeper into this and bring in Jason Johnson. He's a contributor to The Griot and a professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University. We also have Brittany Packnett Cunningham, Packnett with an N. It makes me crazy when people leave the N out. She's a former member of President Obama's 21st Century Policing Task Force. Brittany, to you first. If anti-protest bills like this get passed, what does that mean to peaceful protesters?
Well, what we have to remember is that 93% of the protests from this past summer were deemed peaceful and without incident. And much of the 7% were actually caused by white supremacists and people who were using the cover of these nonviolent protests in order to cause chaos and damage and have black protesters across the country cast exactly as we are.
I can appreciate the fact that they're saying that only 7% of protests are violent, and that some of those protests apparently were caused by white supremacists, which again is a baseless, nonsensical argument. What happened at the U.S. Capitol wasn't even caused by white supremacists, although the individuals there were mostly white, but none of that matters. If you burn down a building in Birmingham, Alabama, or you go to the United States Capitol and kick the doors in, or you head to a courthouse in Portland, those are no longer peaceful protests. Those are riots. That is property damage. Those acts should be against the law and should carry penalties. Why would anybody, let alone all three of the individuals here, defend this? It's not a bill targeting specific types of protesters. And I would argue it is somewhat racist for Stephanie Rhule to come in here and imply that this is solely about Black Lives Matters protesters. If the problem is, as they say here, white nationalists, white supremacists, and all these other individuals who are causing the problems, it's not true. I mean, let's just make this real. We've seen an entire body of evidence that shows that those are not the people causing these problems. The people causing these problems are people who are upset about law enforcement and who have been enabled in the media to believe absolute lies that black people are being hunted in the street. But ignore all of that. Even if what they were saying was true, who would be against this bill? I want white supremacists who are doing terrible things to be punished, arrested, charged with felonies, and taken off the streets. I want the individuals that went to the U.S. Capitol punished, arrested, charged with felonies, and taken off the street. Why do they feel it's necessary to defend people who they feel aren't doing anything wrong? If they're not doing anything wrong, they don't need to worry about this. If you're not burning down buildings and doing property damage, you don't need to worry about this. They claim that over the summer and over the last couple of years that there has been nobody on the side which they're talking about doing anything wrong. So what are they worried about? Well, there's cameras, and we've seen it, and we've seen people from this very network standing in front of burning buildings telling us that nothing's happening. They know stuff is happening out there, and they know that if laws like this pass in the state of Alabama and elsewhere, the people that fall to this law will be the very people they're discussing right now, saying that they're doing nothing wrong. White, black, brown, Asian, yellow with polka dots. I do not care. If you are going out during a political speech, rally, or event, and you are committing actual acts of violence, I want you fried. You could be a liberal, you could be a conservative, you could be a Nazi, you could be the biggest peace-loving, anti-cop protester on the planet. If you're breaking the law, I want you punished. I like stuff like this. I don't know what they're worried about. And to argue that the ACLU is going to say that this piece of legislation is unconstitutional, it's just not true. It's not curtailing peaceful speech at all. It goes after specific acts of violence. And on MSNBC, they're lying to you. That's cable news craziness right there. So if you like this, like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, and come on back tomorrow.
You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com.